here, and for this session, we are reviewing a guide that was put up by Black Dragon. This one is referring to the hero roles, and I can see that it is going to be a guide covering not just tank damage support, but sort of the sub-classifications of main tank, off tank, hit scan, flex DPS, main support, flex support. And they're going to go into some explanation. I expect that with this kind of guide, we're going to see a little bit of the history of why main support and flex support are called what they are, how hit scan and projectile DPS or flex DPS break down, as well as why the three main roles do what they do. So we're going to cover that. I am going to see what this says. I'll, of course, give my thoughts, make adjustments that I think the author potentially should have made, or say, hey, perhaps this should have been called out. Or, if it's totally wrong, I'll call it out on that. But we're going to get into it, see what it says. For those of you that haven't seen this kind of content from me before, I will address chat. If chat has questions, concerns, things like that, I will get to that, but I will probably get through most of the guide, or at least a section of the guide first, so that this sort of makes sense from a breakdown of people that are more interested in the review of the content. Then we'll talk to chat, and then we'll get into sort of dealing with what the comments say here and see what they have to say. So first things first, this is posted by Black Drake on it, looks like, and we have people ask about what each role does for the team and why heroes are categorized in certain ways. This brief informational piece is designed to clear up some common questions and thoughts about how heroes are categorized within their roles and the goal of these heroes in a team comp. They're an amateur coach. You can check their profile if you're interested in more content that they've written, or we can find them in Spylo's Discord. Well, come on, if you're building your brand, go create your own Discord. Go do your own stuff. Don't refer us to find you in Spylo's Discord. Spylo's cool. Spylo's great and all, but like build your own presence. Quick shout out to Hypocritical Midgets, which is Major Midget, for taking a look over the draft earlier. Oh, so if we criticize this, we get to criticize Major Midget too? Awesome. No, I like those guys. It's fine. I'm just having a little fun. Okay, what are the three main roles in Overwatch? Tank, damage, and support. Tank heroes are designed to help your team move into useful areas of the map. Sure. These areas are called space, which is a key principle in Overwatch. So I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. This is certainly minor. Like, this is very minor, but it's not that useful areas of the map are called space. Everything on the map is space. Space is space. You can go to the area when you come out of spawn on King's Row, and there's this left area over here before the choke that you could go over here and deal with, and there's a mega and all that. This is not useful space for most situations. This is pretty worthless space in most situations. But it's still space. Something being a useful area of the map doesn't make it space. Space is space. Like, space is literally that stuff, that open stuff, that area, the surface area, whatever you want to think of it as. Space is space. And tanks are good at taking contested space. It's true. That's what they do. They assist teams in taking contested space. But let's keep going. Tank heroes' large health pools, damage absorption, resources, and ability to check threats can help create openings for your team to set up damage options. Sure. Damage heroes are designed to output higher pressure than most other characters. This helps burn through an enemy's resources, either confirming an eliminations or forcing them away. Okay. This damage category has the largest number of available characters to pick from, meaning they can range from being more brawl-focused, close range, and bulkier, to more spam-focused, long range and frail, or somewhere in between. I think that's true of every role, though. Like, yeah, they do have a large cast. They do have the largest cast, but Reinhardt is very brawly, whereas Sigma is significantly less brawly. Brig is not very effective at long range, whereas Zen would much prefer the fight stay further away from him. So I don't know that that's like a damage-specific call-out. That's probably, in an editing check, I'd probably just get rid of that. Short and sweet if it's not adding anything of value. And this isn't adding anything of value here, because this is true of everything. But HLC is in space, that's true, blah. Okay. Okay. Support heroes are specifically chosen to bring different utility options to the team, along with a varied capacity to refresh their teammates' health resources. I'll be going into the specific utilities that each support hero offers later in the guide. Yeah, supports do mostly change the way the game is played, their utilities, etc. Tanks do too, but you could call the supports as being the specific utility ones. That's fine with me. Okay. There's no significant evidence that any role can carry more or less than any other role. Some traits, however, make more specific heroes within each role easier to have individual impact. I mean, I want to say citation needed. I want to ask for a citation, but what they're saying here is that there is no evidence. So I can't ask them to prove a lack of evidence. I don't love that statement though. That was sort of like let me just get this in here type thing. But that's fine. That's fine. You can narrate like that if you want to. I think there'd be some disagreement over that, and you didn't really provide evidence to support your view. But again, I can't ask you to provide a lack of evidence, so that's fine. The heroes that tend to perform best on ladder have either one, quick independent dealt burst damage, and or two, don't fully rely on teammates for survivability. Both of those things are true. The second trait can be fulfilled by having a long range and therefore taking less damage, or having mobility and being able to escape. More so the second one. The second one has traditionally been a greater deal in it, but yeah, the first one can fulfill it. Really more the second one. Even the good long-range heroes have good escapes. McCree, when he was at his most powerful, had his roll distance increased. Hanzo became more powerful. Now, don't get me wrong, Storm Arrow was a huge buff, but when he got Storm Arrow, he also got his little puff away jump. Ash has her coach weapon. Like, every ranged hero that I think they think of is like, no, what makes them work? Widow, yes, has range, but her grapple's on a long cooldown, but it is mobility, and she has very heavy burst damage in that one-shot mechanic. It's a little hard to disentangle those. I think like burst damage is true, but I'd say it has excuse me. How do I want to say this? I would say it's more mobility. Like mobility is the preferred of those two, but that's fine. Here's that fit. This can allow a player to thrive even with randomized teammates, but any hero can be used effectively on ladder. True. Heroes I personally recommend for laddering are Wrecking Ball, Zarya, McCree, Hanzo, Baptiste, and Anna. So what they're getting at here is the heroes that they mean can carry effectively. Why? Why did we get into this? Why is this even here? Like, this paragraph is about what roles can carry, and every role can carry. So I guess the thought was they wanted to specifically call out that none of these roles are better than carrying at the other. But again, this doesn't really support the premise of the guide of sort of calling out what are these things. This is a tangent. And this is a tangent that I don't think is particularly well supported in terms of this right here. I don't necessarily. I'm not gonna say that this is definitely wrong, but I don't think. But there's no specific support for their lack of support, if you want to call it that. And then you also get into this isn't like helping explain what the rules are or anything. And it's not really what you personally recommend for laddering, it's what you would say would be the most effective for carrying with. But again, a prerequisite to carrying is mostly going to be or having a disproportionate impact is mostly going to be actually being better than the level that you're playing at most of the time. So, like, yes, this is a good carry hero for the tank role, so is this one. This has historically been quite a lot, as has this. Yes, this is the one of choice right now, though it's a little less meta in Owl. I'd kind of disagree. Anna's a lot of fun, but I don't think I'd put her there. Zen fits here better. Anna's a lot of fun, but Zen fits here better. Okay. I also think not having Tracer on this list is wild. Wild. Not having Widow on this list is a little surprising. Like, if Anna has made your list and Tracer hasn't, something has gone wrong. Okay. How's each role in Overwatch subclassified? People who have been in the Overwatch community for a while will be familiar with 6 different subcategories of heroes, 2 per role. These terms aren't always the most accurate or useful, but they're the most commonly used terminology. These categories are main tank, off tank, hit scan, DPS, flex support, and main support. And we are going to be starting with the tanks after I get coffee. Main tanks are heroes able to withstand high enemy pressure over time through use of armor, health, and abilities such as shields. No. No. Their goal is to act as a lightning rod for pressure and prevent that pressure from coming in contact with their teammates. The main tanks in Overwatch are Reinhardt, Orisa, Winston, and Wrecking Ball. So, yes, this is true. Um, Withstand high enemy pressure over time through use of armor, health, and abilities such as shields. No, this is not true. Their goal is to act as a lightning rod for pressure. Yeah, that actually is true. But that's the thing. It's a lightning rod. It's a as your team goes, you want to quickly pull attention to you sort of right before your team goes, right as your team goes. You want to be the initiator. What main tanks are built to do isn't to take actually sustained high pressure. That's not their goal. Their goal is to survive the initial burst. Their goal is to be a little bulkier than the rest of their team, to have a little bit better resources for that thing, to be able to go, we can peak, we can go first. And if our team doesn't go, we're still going to absolutely get destroyed, get shelled, go back to spawn, not going to have a good time. But we, because of our kits, can take just a little bit more and we can afford to open it. But we do not have this ability to sustain to take high pressure as main tanks. Like, maybe we're specifically thinking about a Reinhardt that's getting pumped full of heals by an Anna or a Bap here, but that is not main tanks in general. Winston does not like taking sustained high damage over time. Hammond does not like taking sustained high damage over time. So no, it's not about their use of armor allowing them to take sustained damage. It's about they have a little bit more. That means they don't get one shot. They don't immediately get burst down when they break a choke, open a sight line. And them not immediately getting burst down, them pulling eyeballs to them and not immediately going down buys their team a little bit of time to do something, perhaps on the flanks, perhaps on angles, things like that. That's what we're looking for here. It's not about being able to take sustained high pressure over time. They frequently can't do that. Only some of them can, and even the ones that can only do it when they also have the very high sustain flex supports on them. So no, I'm just gonna scratch this. Like, this is just wrong. This lightning rod for pressure thing is okay, because it's actually a lightning is sort of a good thing, because lightning is a good descriptor whether the author meant it or not, to go, hey, it's a quick thing, you're supposed to bring the focus to you rather than to strike something else, and it should be a quick brief thing. It's not like a lightning bolt that stays striking, it's a quick lightning bolt that's there and then fizzles type thing. Like, it needs to be a fast thing that your tank is dealing with there. Oh, there we go. Casil, I'm going to assume that that's you because I am jumping not into chat in general, but I will respond to Casil because I can see that they say here, hello. That was definitely a point I struggled to explain more and had to revise a couple of times, especially because I had to differentiate it from Sigma. Got it. So, Casil, I don't know this, but I'm going to assume that you are Black Dracon here, based on what you just said there. So I'll try to happen to see your response. No problem. No problem. That's what I do. I respond to guides sometimes. Um, Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoy the content. If you have things as I go through here, you can certainly throw them in here. I'm going to continue hopping through your guide for now. Rest of chat, I'm not ignoring you, but I am going to interact with the author a little bit more here, and then we'll get back to you guys at the end. If anyone wants to jump to the front of the line, you know the drill. You can super chat, and I'll interrupt what I'm going through here. Okay. So main tank, that's going to be my first serious objection that we've found in the guide so far. And it looks like Casil or Black Draken here understands that and was potentially looking for a way to reword it. No problem. Reinhardt and Orisa will use their shields and fortify to move team members safely into useful areas of the map, such as high ground and side angles. Similarly, they can brawl in close range thanks to these abilities and weapons. The reason that Sigma doesn't fall into this category is because he only has 400 health, no armor, and significantly slower shield regeneration rate than Reinhardt. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Orisa does brawl better than Sigma. They've both got 400 health. Sigma has better armor, but Sigma's defensive cooldown lets her do more work than his. Like, he has to be spending his barrier. Sigma can use her barrier and or her fortify to brawl, and the fortify is the key one for brawling. Like, the fortify makes Sigma as good of a brawler as Reinhardt while it's active, whereas Sigma's got nothing. Sigma doesn't have any damage increase at range. Sigma doesn't have any good defensive tools except for that barrier. So yeah, okay. Runner and Orisa use their shields and fortify to move team members safely into useful areas of the map, such as high ground and side angles. They can brawl in close range thanks to their abilities and weapons. Sigma doesn't fall into this category because it only has 400 armor, 400 health, no armor, significantly slower shield regeneration rate than Reinhardt. Okay. Sure. Wrecking Ball and Winston use their adaptive shield and bubble respectively to survive a brief burst of pressure, then can use their mobility to escape quickly. While they can't absorb nearly as much pressure as Reinhardt and Orisa, their mobility can let them reposition and set up more easily for attacks on the enemy, and they can draw the enemy's attention completely away from their odds. Yeah, the way I like to describe this one when I cover this is Wrecking Ball and Winston are more explosive in their attention pull. They do a much better job of going, no, you have to pay attention to us. They're more reliable in drawing eyeballs to them, so it's a more explosive engagement window, but it also doesn't last as long. And that can be painful in the metal ranks, because if the team doesn't recognize it, frequently the Winston or Hammond will have to respond to the team's timing rather than expecting the team to follow their timing, even if they go in when the whole team is ready for their timing. And the reason for this is because it's a shorter window. If let's say that Reinhardt could hold the engage window open for 6 seconds or 7 seconds, you would expect a Baller Winston to hold the engagement window open for 3 seconds, or that's a 2, 3 seconds, or maybe 4 seconds type thing. And this more explosive, more powerful, but shorter window can be harder to work around if people don't understand how the game is being played. But it is a very forceful engage window. The enemies are more distracted by it, more attention pulled, more, oh, we have to deal with this, than a Reinhardt walking forward with the shield up. A Reinhardt swinging on someone is a distraction, don't get me wrong, but even so, I would say a pile drive or a cleaving Winston forces a bigger response. I like that distinction. I usually call it more volatile heroes where they depend on the power spikes. Yep, that's fair. Okay. Off tanks are also known as flex tanks. Are heroes equipped to contest off angles, while main tanks can often handle the pressure coming towards your team from one angle. If there are too many areas of the map that damage is coming from, your team can't effectively escape. Right. Angles compromise cover, angles stop making your movement as effective as a dodge mechanic. Angles split your attention with the screen. Angles take away your ability for spam damage to just randomly combine, miss one person, hit the next. It's basically you don't do as much when the enemies have angles on you. You do more when you have angles on the enemies. It's fantastic. Not sure I totally agree with this though. Let's keep going here. The off-tank will use their damage and abilities to prevent opponents from using the angles. The off-tanks in Overwatch are D.Va, Sigma, Zarya, and Roadhog. So, I want to read that again. Off-tanks are heroes equipped to contest off angles, while a main tank can often handle the pressure coming towards your team from one angle. If there are too many areas of the map that damage is coming from, your team can't effectively escape. I'm not sure I'd put the focus on escape there. The off tanks will use their damage and abilities to prevent the opponents from using the angle. Okay, so like this is phrased in a way that is very Diva and Sigma centric. Um, this is less true for Zarya and Roadhog. And what I mean by that, I'm going to see what your explanations for these here, and you do call them out specifically. You separate them. I like that. I hope what I'm going to see here is that Diva goes and takes off angles, Sigma goes and controls off angles, and they work like that. They also have this ability to be like, hey, let's rotate together with our Rhine Shield this way and our Sigma shift this way or DM this way, something along those lines, as well as the ability of, hey, maybe Reinhardt's pushing through here while Diva's controlling this angle over here, or Sigma's controlling this over here, etc. Like they like those hard off angles. Uh, Zarya's off angling is much softer. And while Diva answers things on off angles, Diva will be like, no, I'm not going to let a soldier that's here do work. And Sigma can do much the same thing. I'm not going to let a Widow that's here do work. Those are things that they're good at. They're actually good at contesting the off angles. That's really less true for Zarya and Roadhog. Zarya can really only handle pretty limited off angles. You don't send your Zarya to go deal with people on the off angles. And she doesn't have really the range, the mobility, anything to deal with serious off angles. She can like deal with someone who off angles in a similar way she does. She should and she will recognize, but everyone should and will recognize that, hey, if you're playing into Reinhardt with a Zarya off angling over here and a Mei or a Reaper off angling over here, yes, your Zarya is probably going to realize I should shoot at the off angling Zarya to make that Zarya go back and go join their Reinhardt. Like that is true. Or shoot at the Mei or Reaper to make them go back and join their Reinhardt or the McCree or whatever's out, taking this slight off angle to go do it. But Zarya is not really going to be like, oh, you have a Reinhardt here, and you've put, how do I want to put this? A Tracer in our backline. No, don't really want to spend a ton of time dealing with that as Zarya, not particularly well suited to it. Nor do I really want to spend a ton of time as Zarya dealing with this soldier that's over on this 90-degree angle from the Reinhardt when our team is like here-ish. That's not really something I want to go deal with as Zarya. Like, no, I'm actually not going to go deal with that soldier. I'm going to continue to put pressure on the front line. I want someone else to deal with the soldier. We may have to go clear this soldier together. Like, we may have to gather up both of these guys, or our whole team, our core at least, and go rotate through and push that soldier out, and then push through that way. But I am not, as Zarya, expected to go deal with this soldier on this angle, this Ashe on this angle, to a limited degree, going to deal with this Tracer in the back line. Um, yeah. So I don't really agree with this framing because Zarya's only really going to deal with off anglers that take soft off angles like she does. But everyone should always be shooting at people that take those angles. Like you generally want to, or almost everyone. You generally want to be putting pressure on the people that have the angles if they're accessible to you. So I'm going to object a little bit to that. And while Hog will control an angle for you, Hog isn't really going to go remove people from off angles. Hog is going to go take a flank himself. So we'll do it with a different tank since we spent all this time on Reinhardt. Let's say there's an Orisa here and an Orisa here, Hog might go control an off angle like over here, and he might have gone through like this. So let's say there's a hallway like this, a flank. He might get control of this off angle. He's not really going here to like fight back other people. He's not going through here to fight back a McCree that's here. He will do that as a side effect to fight back a Hanzo that's here. He's really doing it strictly to get his own off angle. So that's not really contesting the off angle. Like he contests the off angle almost on accident. You wouldn't use him to answer the off angle. Sigma I can think of more as like, yes, you'd send Sigma down this same route to go do this. And Sigma, you would be happy to go, Sigma, I want you to either at least contest the angle, and if you can win the angle and go do it, that's fine. And Hog is going to accomplish a similar thing, but you're not really using Hog to contest the off angle. It's just like a happy accident side effect. I guess those are close enough, though. I object more to the Zarya thing than I do to the Hog thing. I'm just sort of looking at this phrasing that we have here that was contest off angles, and then specifically, like contesting sort of happens, specifically main tank handles from one pressure, off tank handles the other, sort of. This is in the sort of category. This isn't like wrong. I'm not going to be like minus 50 points or anything like this, but like this is a little bit of an oversell of what Hog and Zarya do, in my opinion. Um, so how do I want to phrase this then? Like, I like to put the off tank distinction more on controlling space. Like, you're focusing this in like a contesting off angles. I really like, when I'm thinking about off tanks, to put it more in a realm of main tanks take space. Main tanks try to, go take space. Off tanks try to enforce space mostly that their main tanks have taken. They're not as good at taking contested space. Like, sure, a diva can fly behind a team, that sort of thing, but it's really tougher for off tanks in general to take space. Sigma doesn't have a very good kit for taking space. Can sort of throw the barrier forward, but that doesn't work. Can use their shift, but that's not amazing. Like, the main tanks are better at taking contested space, pushing into things that are either neutral with some pressure from the enemy or pushing into enemy space. Whereas I really think of the off tanks as better at enforcing space that your team already has. Like, Hog can go through this flank when it's neutral like this. Hog can't really go through this flank when it's contested by more than one person. If Hog walks through it and runs into two people, he's kind of going to have to leave type thing. Reinhardt can potentially push into this when it's controlled by multiple people. He's kind of got the kit to do that, to push multiple people back. That's not totally fair, because Reinhardt's going to have some support while doing that, and Hog really isn't. But yeah, I really do prefer the off tanks and force space paradigm way of thinking things. Main tanks take space, to the off tanks are all about contesting angles. Again, I'd more strictly go, that's a Diva and Sigma thing. Like, yes, Hog will end up doing it. Zarya will contest soft angles, but I think of this more as they do a better job of enforcing space, a better job of, no, we can help our tank sustain here with bubbles. We can go, hey, if you try to, as the other Reinhardt, walk at our Reinhardt, we can hook you. If you try to push in, you're being pressured from the side where our Sigma is or where our Diva is, and you get shot in the side, and that really doesn't let you go forward. Like, these guys are set with walls here, and if you, as the other team, try to walk forward with your with your whatever, maybe your McCree, maybe your Reinhardt, maybe your Reaper, I don't care. If you try to walk forward, you get shot in the side, because this is space that blue team has gotten control over by posting up on these off angles like this. Um, so yeah, I like to think of it more like that. And if you point out, but temporal, I don't like that distinction, because DPS also do a good job of enforcing space, and it's not like main tanks have zero ability to enforce space. Well, it's also not like the off tanks have zero ability to take space. Sigma does have shift, does have barrier, Diva does have boosters. Um, but boosters aren't as good as what Winston has, which is jetpack and then bubble. That's better than, bubble versus DM. DM's going to be better for enforcing it. Bubble's going to be better for explosively taking it. It's definitely hard to boil down when trying to keep things simplified. Agreed. When talking about enforcing space, I feel like it diminishes the abilities of off tanks to apply pressure and participate in gaining map control. Yeah, but most of the time they do that by taking their off angles, which I know is where you were going with this. They do it by taking their off angles, and they take those off angles, like, ideally they take those off angles for free. They go find that. Now, as the game has evolved and people have gotten better, they get challenged by other people who also recognize the importance of those off angles. But that's sort of back to the early versions of Dive, where the early versions of Dive pretty quickly evolved into it's just the battle for control of the flanks, and it's a series of 1v1s, and if you win the most 1v1s, you get more map control, you get to hit your planned dive, etc. So, like, when talking about enforcing space, I feel like it diminishes the ability of off-tanks to apply pressure and participate in gaining map control. I mean, they do. They apply pressure, but again, DPS does that too. Like, yes, shooting at their Zarya on the slight off angle, shooting at their Mei on the slight off angle, corralling away their Tracer that was trying to take a flank with your Diva, or with your Ball and Tracer or whatever. Like, all of that. Hmm. That's why I generally try to look for a more dual-sided distinction, but still haven't found one I'm happy with. Yeah, it's not perfect. I mean, I do prefer the enforced space as opposed to the mindset of equipped to contest off angles. Again, I really think Zarya struggles to fit into that contest off angle paradigm, but she's definitely an off tank because all she's contesting is the very soft off angles there. And she's mostly doing it while she tries to maintain hers, and Hog, very similar thing there. He less soft off angles with Hog, but more like he's really not trying to contest off angles. He's just trying to get his own, and sometimes people are in his way. Whereas someone like Diva or Sigma, it actually is in their mind to solve the off angle, which yes, they will still turn into their own to go do work. That's a challenging one. That's a challenging one. It's hard to keep this one simple. Okay. Let's see what you did here. Diva and Sigma are able to directly absorb pressure thanks to their respective abilities, meaning they can consistently prevent an enemy from using an angle. This consistent utility is why Diva or Sigma is usually the meta in professional play. Yeah, yeah. I mean, basically, Diva was basically perma-meta until we invented a second Diva with projected barrier, experimental barrier. Diva will use her mobility, bulk, and abilities to briefly bully someone out of an off angle, but cannot stay for long periods of time due to defense matrix limited duration. Sigma is more brittle and challenging to position, but thanks to his shields and longer range, can more easily maintain his presence on an angle or fully shut it down. Right, Sigma is extremely hard to remove once he's been set up there. Diva can more easily take something, kind of similar to a main tank, but frequently has to leave, is easier to force out, and then is happy to get healed back up and pretty quickly re-challenge it. Whereas Sigma, Diva can repeatedly go, hey, I'm going to challenge this thing held by a soldier. I'm going to repeatedly challenge it until I win. If I don't win, I just drop, get healed, go back up in a few seconds. Sigma, on the other hand, is happy to go, I got control of the off angle. I dare you to remove me. It's going to take you ages to deal with my barrier, my shift, and my playing with cover, and my regenerating top fourth of my health, especially when top fourth of my health is juggled with these two things. So yeah, Zarya and Roadhog don't have consistent ability to pressure thanks to their more rigid cooldowns. However, they're great at putting out burst damage to force out enemies. Roadhog can often be flanking to provide another damage angle while simultaneously preventing the team from safely using the angle themselves. Zarya can quickly pressure out anyone who tries to check from the side and then use her brief peel to double down the pressure afterwards with increased charge. She can also provide peel to the team like Diva and Sigma despite her damage focus. To a lesser degree, but not to as much of a lesser degree of Roadhog with that peel. More rigid cooldowns. Again, I just wouldn't get into this. I don't like this consistent ability to absorb pressure. Like, I think the only person that this really held true for, if anyone, was actually like, no one really has a consistent ability to absorb pressure. Sigma has the ability to actually sort of take more with this juggling of three resources that I mentioned earlier. Everyone else is just using cover, and Sigma is using cover too. I don't like this consistent ability to absorb pressure thing. It puts too much focus on a belief that I unfortunately think too many people had coming into Overwatch of like, tanks are supposed to tank damage. No, better tanks take less damage. like a key to tanking, and you will not make dive tanks work without this, but you'll struggle with all tanks without this, is you should figure out how to take less damage. So I just don't like this phrasing. Coming back in here, I think it plays back into the MMO trinity that we would like to break tank players out of. Yeah, this is the hog thing. He just happens to simultaneously prevent them. Quickly pressure out anyone who tries to check from the side, then use brief peel to double. Sure, sure. Okay. Yeah, still don't like this. Okay. I think that's fair, yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Cover discipline is one of the biggest things I have to hammer into my team. But do you think that the guide would lose too much focus if I talked cover usage when categorizing tanks? Um, I don't know. I wouldn't put a long tangent for it. I would remove some of this consistent absorb pressure and withstand enemy pressure over time. I'd remove this phrasing, and I would probably put, instead of this like main tanks are this. I mean, this is okay, but you could include a brief paragraph that's just a line or two about tanking is not about taking damage. I wouldn't even do that. I just change this. Like if you change this, if you get rid of this high pressure over time and instead make it about main tanks are the heroes that are designed to be able to take a little more damage to open up your engagement. They're the ones that can risk opening an angle with full resources, but they still don't want to take excessive damage. No one wants to take damage in Overwatch, generally speaking. Yes, there's times you're charging a nano, charging a Valk, etc. But something like that, I think, is you're going to get away with the same number of lines that you have here. You're just changing this line out for main tank's job is to be the one that can survive opening an angle to initiate a push. Opening an angle to pull attention for just a little bit longer to main tanks are the ones who can get things going without instantly getting deleted. They are your choke breakers. Uh, damage, okay. And chat, I will catch up on you guys. I'm not ignoring you. I've got two more categories here. May stop before the conclusion, may do the conclusion, but I will catch up on you guys, chat. So if you have things to say, do feel free to throw it in there, and I'll come back to it. Damage. The two most common subcategories for damage heroes are hit scan and flex DPS. A hit scan player is generally expected to play the hit scan heroes such as McCree, Ashe, Widowmaker, Reaper, Soldier 76, and occasionally Tracer, Sombra, Bastion, or Symmetra. A flex DPS player is expected to play most of the projectile heroes, Genji, Pharah, Hanzo, Echo, Mei, and sometimes Torb, Doomfist, and Junkrat. However, these terms have little bearing on how the heroes actually play in ladder. So I would actually fix this. Hit scan, this is usually true for, and for most of the game's history, hit scan have been able to get away with playing mostly just hit scan heroes. Flex DPS players can have this hero pool, but they also have to include a relevant hit scan. That might be, hey, they know how to play an Ashe. That might be they know how to play a McCree. That might be they know how to play a Tracer, a Sombra. But they're probably going to need one or two things from the hit scan pool that they don't have to play quite as well as their hit scan counterpart. But the reality is a Flex DPS has had multiple times in history where double hit scan has been meta enough. That might be we've had Tracer Soldier metas. We've had McCree Ashe were running around for a while, which was weird. We've had Tracer Cree running around at times. Tracer Sombra was meta for quite a few times. So, like, I would be careful here. Okay. However, these terms have little bearing on how the heroes actually play in ladder. Right, these are professional positions. You don't need one of each. Some do more damage directly, some do less. there's not much breakdown. I believe it's more practical to just consider them damage heroes and not categorizing them unless you're scouting for an organized team. Sure, but none of these terms have a ton of use if you're not. I guess that's fair. I guess these are still useful. Even on ladder, you want one main tank, one off tank, one main support, one flex support. Sure. Okay. I believe it's more practical just to consider them damage heroes, not bother with categorizing them unless you're scouting for an organized team. In that case, use the hit scan pool and flex pool to find players who have complementary hero pools. That way, by picking a hit scan player and a flex player, you know you'll have most of the necessary heroes covered. Sure. In an organized team setting, a hit scan player should be able to cover McCree, Ashe, Widowmaker, and ideally one of either Reaper, Sombra, or Tracer. No, if your hit scan player can't cover Tracer, they're not a hit scan player. Full stop. Um, we've had too many eras in Overwatch where, oh yes, they're a long range hit scan specialist type thing, and a couple players have gotten away with that in Al, for example, but no. You expect your hit scan player to have a good tracer. They might be the better long range hit scan than tracer player, and that is often the compromise you make when you're scouting, recruiting for a team. You go, okay, do we want someone who's an amazing tracer, or do we want someone who's a fantastic mid or long range hit scan player? That's usually the compromise that you have to make, and that was the first and I'd say most common seventh man for a team was, hey, we want one good tracer and we want one amazing long range, because they do seem to be different skills that players develop that don't complement each other beautifully, even though they're both in the same pool. But the reality is, Tracer has had so much of an evergreen effect that you sort of always want to be able to play her, but you do have situations where it's like, well, on this portion of this King of the Hill, we want to bring out our Ashe, our Widowmaker, etc. It's a tough one. And this is also why some flex DPS have gotten good at Tracer. Not good at the level of the Tracer specialists that are, true hit scan players, but good to the level of your ranged hit scan that ends up playing Tracer. Levels of good. I would not advise I don't think this is fair. I think you need to include in here McCree, Ashe, Widowmaker, Tracer, and ideally one of either Reaper or Sombra. And I'd also probably get Sim in here, but you covered that earlier. A flex DPS player should be able to cover Mei, Echo, Pharah, Genji, and either Sombra or Tracer. Yeah, that's fine. Mei, Echo, Pharah, Genji, and either Sombra or Tracer. They probably do, unfortunately, also want to be able to cover one of these two. Unfortunate reality. Or Soldier. But yeah. That won't be a big ask, though, for these guys. The other heroes are generally more of a bonus. Note that flex DPS players are expected now in the pro scene to play their Sombra Tracer. You get there, good. This is because it's often useful to run a flanker alongside a hit scan hero like Ashe, so we come back to the point that we're just looking to find players who can cover the heroes we want to play. That's our priority, more than strictly following classifications. Yes, good. Main support heroes are... Oh, did I miss anything here? We're all vibing that midget here too. Hey, Major Midget. Main support heroes are Lucio, Bridget, and Mercy. They specialize in enabling teammates more so than independent action. Sure. I hope we're going to talk about their peel. While Lucio can make Reddit plays, or Mercy can go for picks during Valkyrie, the fact is they're chosen above all else to enable specific teammates. Additionally, they generally are less mechanically challenging than flex supports. I know some Lucio players who would disagree with that. This is why main supports in organized team play often track ultimates for the team or make tactical calls. Okay. Lucio specializes in quick movement. No, we can't not cover Peel here. We can't not cover Peel here. Lucio specializes in movement and diminishing the distance while using close-range heroes that let teammates enter the fight faster, without taking as much damage or being being exposed to as much danger beforehand. He can independently act at times, but in terms of practical strategy, he's there to enable brawl heroes with his speed boost. We're not going to talk about protecting our flex support at all as a secondary role. Like, main support, yes, enable their teammates, but a huge part about your main supports, or one of your focuses as a main support, is our main supports do different things. Lucio is like, hey, I'm going to enable Reinhardt, and I'm going to protect my flex support. Bridget is, hey, I'm going to enable my flankers or my DPS in general, and I'm going to protect my main support. Mercy is, I'm going to enable my ranged DPS, and I'm going to protect my flex support. Like, protecting your flex support is too much of a thing to not be called out here, because all of these guys do it. Especially Bridget, but all of these guys do it. Like, not calling this out as its own thing is hurting me a little bit. Bridget specializes in holding positions pre-fight against dive characters while enabling the team's close-range push when you have significant advantage in a fight. Well, Lucio can't really contribute during ranged fights. That's wrong. Bridget's long range and armor pack allow her to support spread apart teammates. In addition to use her crowd control abilities to protect against rapidly engaging enemies, but when it's time to enter the mid fight and close distance, Bridget's Inspire, Rally, and Whip are powerful tools for enabling a team's messy close range combat. No. Um I can't let that go. Like, Lucio was the other evergreen here. We've added more main supports now. Lucio is not nearly as evergreen, has not held on as well as D.Va has. Like, the evergreen heroes, if we go through Overwatch's history, for each role would have been D.Va, Tracer, and Lucio. They haven't all held on. They've all seen some fall off as more heroes have been added. Lucio's probably seen the most fall off. But the reason that Lucio made the evergreen list was because, yes, can go, hey, enables Reinhardt, that makes sense. In dive situations, protected the flex support until Brig came along and did a better job of it against dive, but was good at that. But also does actually have some reasonable poke. Like, I think you're underestimating how much damage and how much priority the top Lucios put on getting poke damage off to get their beat as quickly as possible. Like, that is the thing that you see as the major difference between lower and higher level Lucios. We talk about the redditing, the like, oh, they dunked on people, they go into the backline, they limit people. We talk about the wall riding skills that higher level Lucios have. But one of the reasons the Lucios actually develop these wall riding skills, even the defensive Lucios, not the Reddit Lucios, is because they have to get the extra one rally of shots of damage, the extra two rallies of shots of damage to get just a little bit more ult charge to not fall behind on beat. Beat is still a very slow ultimate to charge, and Lucios go to pretty wildly extreme lengths to get it. And like, Lucio's weapon has plenty of damage, even in the poke phase. Like, I'm hesitating on that. Lucio is better at long range than Brig is by far. Now, Repair Pack, of course, is better. Repair Pack and what it does to enable divers is better than what Lucio does to enable divers. Divers don't really need his speed, except when they go, okay, everyone dive, everyone use your cooldowns in a synced manner, get your elimination, and now we used our cooldowns, so we need amp to get out. You know, that's a way that Lucio's speed can help divers, because they need amp to get out so they can restabilize, so they can get bind cover to get their cooldowns back so they can dive again. Like, Lucio can do it like that. But if we're looking at this, Lucio can't really contribute during ranged fights. No. Like, pretty similar contribution level in ranged fights to Briggs. Not as much contribution as a Mercy, not as much contribution as a Zen, and Anna, anything like that. But I can't get behind this. Briggs got better peel for her. Brig has better peel for her flex support and enables her dive heroes better. It's not a range difference. Um, and you can say that the repair packs are better than, like, you can say that the range repair packs are a better ranged contribution than the Lucio shots, and that I will agree with. But I'm struggling to, like, I guess you can call Lucio the least contributive of the at range of those, but like, Brig has such range issues. Like I struggle to buy into that. I see how you're trying to frame this. Like Brig sends the repair pack at range into the fight. Lucio sends damage at range into the fight. Brig's repair pack is probably more impactful than Lucio's range damage. But that's not really like a poke thing or range fight. That really is during the dive to enable pickoff plays. That's really not actual range during any sort of poke phase. Brig is pretty darn weak during the poke phase. Like, you do say. Let's see what you have to say here. But is Lucio picked for the spam damage? Personally, I would say not, and therefore don't feel it would help people understand the main distinction with why heroes are picked. Major Midget says, I agree with Black Dragon. Meanwhile, Brig is picked specifically for the peel and distance enablement of the team. Repair packs are way more valuable than Lucio poke. At Major Midget, no. Um, Lucio is picked for Lucio. Right, Lucio is not picked for the spam damage. Lucio is picked for the speed. Brig is picked for the extreme peel for her flex support and the enabling of the dive DPS. But again, I'm not really calling that poke, but we're sort of getting into a distinction of like Lucio's not picked for her poke, but at the same time, like if you're on Brig against a poke team, you would have a better time on Lucio. Like if you're playing against a Orisa, Ashe, Echo type thing, you're just gonna have a terrible time, and you would be much better on Lucio than you would on Brig. So like, yeah, even Lucio's spam, his speed also to close on them, but even his spam is going to be better than what Brig is going to bring. And you might say, no, 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 your Brig is going to enable your Tracer or your Genji that go in, and it is, but like, you better be getting value out of those packs. Like that's sort of one of the things that is sort of the downfall of Brig. She's extremely specialized if you don't have the perfect compositions around her type thing. While enabling the team's close range push when you have a significant advantage in a fight. While Lucio can't really contribute during ranged fights, Bridget's long range armor packs allow her to support spread apart teammates in addition to using her crowd control abilities to protect against rapidly engaging enemies. But when it's time to enter the mid-fight and close distance, Bridget's Inspire, Rip Shot, and Rally are all powerful tools for enabling a team's messy close-range combats. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. I'm getting too nitpicky on this. I mean, yeah, it's true. You do want Bridget for enabling your dive heroes. You do like Lucio does have much better poke obviously than Brig, and it becomes a question of the poke versus the repair pack. You would in cases where you actually have flankers to use them want the repair packs over the Lucio poke when it comes to ranged contribution. So yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Briggs' ranged contribution is very dependent, and I don't even like calling it a ranged contribution, but if that's the terminology we're going to use, her ranged contribution is very contributed on having teammates, but we're talking about organized play here where you should have those teammates, so that is reasonably fine. Um, okay. Yeah, I'm good with that. I'll back off. In addition, using crowd control abilities to protect against rapidly engaging enemies, but when it's time to enter the mid fight and close distance, Bridget's Inspire Rally and Whip are are all powerful tools for enabling teams' messy close range combat. Um, I mean, Rally's certainly powerful. That Inspire's okay for that. I think it has more to do with her actually stopping the rapid closure. In the brawl, she's not all that powerful until Rally's up. She's really not these days. It's her ability to stop the rapid engagement with whip shot, with bash, that is really powerful. Like, actually, in the brawl, she's really not all that amazing, except when Rally goes these days. But that's fine. Um, Mercy specializes in enabling a team spam phase. She can help contribute to long-range damage by amplifying a pressure angle, generally a damage hero such as Pharah or Ashe due to their long range. While her healing can contribute in a close-range fight, she doesn't provide nearly as much to the team as Lucio or Brig in those circumstances and cannot easily use her powerful resurrect ability. Yeah, she's much better with poke teams, agreed. She does bring reasonable healing, but that's not why you play her. Not so good when things turn melee. Yeah, that's fine. I really can't get behind the lack of peel covered in this section, though. Like, I cannot get behind the lack of peel that was covered in this section, specifically for the flex support. Like, that is a critical principle, and the way that main and flex support sort of work together, I don't like. Okay, on to flex support. Flex support. Heroes are Zenyatta, Anna, Baptiste, and Moira. These are all heroes that specialize in their own independent pressure outputs. Yeah, Zenyatta and Baptiste have straight up damage output, while Anna and Moira rely more on their ability and ultimates for large team pressure spikes. Zenyatta, Anna, Baptiste, and Moira specialize in their own independent pressure output. Zen and Bap have straight up damage output, while Anna and Moira rely more on their abilities and ultimates for large team pressure spikes. Um, yeah, okay. Like Zenyatta and Baptiste have straight up damage output. They do, but again, Zen's biggest contribution is like it's Discord. It really is. So like I don't want to be too much about it. It's his in like here we're talking about independent pressure output, Zen and Bap straight up damage output. Well, no, it's his Discord. Like his damage is really good, don't get me wrong, but the single biggest piece of Zen's value is not his orbs of destruction, it's not his harmony orb, it's not his transcendence, it's his Discord orb. Whereas when we get to Bap, it's probably right clicks, left clicks, then lamp in that order. Then you'd get to window, then you'd get to shift in terms of what you need out of Bap's value. Like, yes, Bap is a ton about, hey, he does very, very good damage for a support. That's incredibly important. But, like, Zen, it's if we're doing this about, like, yes, these two good have damage output. These two are more consistent, except, and while Lamp is a power spike, it's not nearly as important of a power spike as Coalescence or Nade, or at least, I don't know that it's less important than Nade. Anna relies on Nade, but Anna's just a weaker hero, unfortunately, than Bap. That's kind of a tuning issue. Okay, that's fine. Zenyatta and Baptiste are based around giving the team extra damage output. Zenyatta may be frail, but can greatly increase his team's spam damage from the front, or even take his own angle to provide pressure from the side. Baptiste trades a significant chunk of damage for higher team sustain, more flexible positioning, and more durability. Baptiste trades a significant chunk of damage for higher team sustain, more flexibility, positioning, and survivability. Yeah, sure. Anna and Moira are focused on rapid impact Anna's anti-nade debuff provides a quick opportunity for your team to strike while the opponent cannot refresh the health resources. However, she's no slouch in terms of long-range damage either. She's a little bit of a slouch in terms of long-range damage. Moira's burst damage is largely focused around Coalescent. She's an unusual hero because she offers lower pressure than other flex supports and no utility. However, her raw healing output, damage, and survivability means she can independently exert a lot of rapid pressure on the enemy team while staying alive. Yeah, she's pretty heavily built around her power spike of her Coalescence, and the trade, like, that was the trade that they had to make with her. They went, okay, she's going to have high healing, but she can't sustain it. If she goes fire hose style, she can survive a long time on her own, which means her sustained input, her sustained output, because she can't do fire hose healing forever, her sustained output, unless she's doing just free heals of just taps, is pretty low, but her power spike is pretty quick to get and meaningfully powerful. Sure. You'll notice the roles of flex support and main support are still fairly arbitrary. Well, that's because you left out the biggest distinction of them. Sometimes in the Overwatch League, you'll see main support players playing Baptiste, so their flex support player can play Zenyatta. Similarly to the damage rule, the support subcategories are largely subjective and are more just an expectation to know what heroes a person plays in a team. If you're just hanging out on ladder, don't worry too much about it. Zenyatta, Baptiste, and Anna all are more immobile and traditionally fit the description of a flex support, while Moira can often feel as if she's somewhere in the middle. You can win games with 2 main supports, 2 flex supports, or any combination. Sure, but you can also win games with Zarya D.Va as an as a tank combination. That doesn't mean I want to encourage people to do it, but yes, you can. You can just be more challenging and require adapting of your play. Sure. Another common support classification you'll heal is big heal, little heals. No, you're going to heal main. You're going to heal main. You're going to hear main heals, off heals more than big heals, little heals. And we hate the terminology, and we hate that the terminology has drifted because we have in organized play and professional play, we have main support and flex support, and people hear main support and they think it's main heals. You're trying to invent this terminology, I think, because you don't want to use the other terminology, but the reality is the other terminology exists and is what actually gets said by a larger percentage of the player base, because let's face it, most of the player base isn't paying any attention to organized play or OWL. I personally find these categories to be extraordinarily subjective and basically useless. The former consists of Baptiste, Anna, and Moira. The latter group is Lucio, Bridget, Mercy, and Zenyatta, except what they'll actually say is they'll say Mercy goes here. Most of the people who will say main heals and off heals, they'll put Mercy in the main heals category, which is wrong, and we understand that, but hey. The reason I find this categorization useless is because a lot of the time it drives people into thinking you always need a big healer. Often if your team is taking too much damage, it can be just as good to swap to high pressure, low heal supports and just eliminate the enemy team faster that's pressuring you. Sure, I'd love to play me some more Zen Brig and some more Zen Lucio, but you know, Zen Mercy. Zen Mercy is always fun. Well, this was just a brief intro explaining what each rule does and which heroes fall into what categories. There's obviously tons of things to discuss. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the comments. I always appreciate discussion. We're having one now. I hope I didn't steal too much of your discussion thunder here. This guide is far from perfect, since I just wanted to pen it down after the topic being on my mind recently. And we do want these. We do want guides like these to come out because people do not understand these roles. And while I have a few objections here and I pointed them out, this is much better than most people's understanding. If you want to dig deeper into actual Overwatch macro philosophy, check out my guide here called Learn Overwatch's Core Fundamentals for Higher Impact. It covers advanced strategy that uses the pro scene and is just as applicable in Ladder 2. Fantastic. We may check that out. I did also link this thread in the description below if you guys want to see it, and I will catch up in chat in just a second here. I just want to go through the last couple things, sort of summary of my thoughts. This is fine. This is just an intro thing. This is mostly done well. I have a slight objection here about how space is used. I could get into pressure. How do we want to define that? But that's not even worth bringing up. That's even less than the space thing here. We had a thing here. This paragraph I'm just not even convinced should have existed, to be honest. And if it was just to make this point, and I'd have put less into this paragraph. This is fine. We talked about main tanks and the issue there with its not withstand high enemy pressure over time. We had our discussion about off tanks. Ultimately, I'm fine with it. There are differences of opinion that are slight. It's hard to keep it simple, but I think, for those of you that watch this, you probably now have a greater understanding. I really don't think it's fair to say that Zarya. It's not that I don't think it's fair. I think it's a little bit of an overrepresentation to say that Zarya and Hog are about specifically contesting off angles. They want to Hog wants to take his own off angles. Zarya will contest soft off angles, but no, you are not going to send your Zarya to go deal with the Ashe that's on that. You are not going to use your Zarya to cover a different direction in your rotation than what your Reinhardt is covering. I really think it is more about enforcing space, but that's a difference of opinion that I don't think is wildly huge. I understand certainly where Black Dragon here is coming from. This is fine, other than that we are underselling the need of the hit scan player. They do have to play Tracer, full stop. Um, this main support section needs a section covering that one of the distinctions between main supports and flex supports is that main supports do offer an incredible amount of peel. And that's one of the more attractive reasons to have one. Flex supports offer a lot of power to your team, but with the exception of Moira and to a more limited degree BAP, it comes in the form of a glass cannon. Zen has no self peel. Anna has to use an extremely expensive cooldown to heal for herself if she to peel for herself if she gets into trouble. Their self peel is weaker effectively on the flex supports. And you might go, no, Anna has two peeling abilities. She has sleep and nade. She does, but they're both expensive. In order for her power to keep up with someone like BAP, for example, she has to be using them offensively. Like, these heroes have less self peel, and that puts them in trouble. And then you might go, okay, well, Moira has lots of self peel, and that's fine. That's why Moira gets a little sticky. It's also why Moira's power is weak. Moira is sort of the yes, she's a flex support, but the reason she's a flex support isn't because of the peel distinction. It's because of the professional distinction of, well, if you are, if you're in the organized play, it's going to be the person who's playing your Anna Zen that is expected to also play your Moira. But really, the only thing that you ever run Moira with is Lucio. And you're doing that because, hey, we're all inning on Brawl. Moira doesn't need peels. We can run Lucio. We can greed the speed, etc. Moira is really the exception to that. BAP is starting to show up as another exception, and that's why you will sometimes see double flex support in Zen BAP, because BAP has pretty darn good self peel for a flex support. So you might be thinking then, Temporal, your explanation breaks down because it's really Zen and Nana. I know, but still, when you look at the main supports, they're the ones that are really good at peeling for the other supports. Lucio with his boop and amp if absolutely necessary, Brig with obviously bash, repair packs, whip shots, and then Mercy showing up and yellow beaming or blue beaming someone, or dropping from your fair to go res your Zen after they get eliminated. Hey, that's the ultimate form of peel. So I would have said that had to be included in here, and I'd be pretty firm on that one. This is mostly fine, and then this is good. Okay, I will catch up on chat now. I have to catch up on chat now, and we'll see where we are. Okay. Okay, let me catch up first from Kessel and Major Midget here, and then I'll do everyone else. It's just Kessel wrote the guide. I'll revise the section for Brig once. I'll probably add something about peel for you, for you on your behalf. I think it's a fair point, even though I don't personally feel Mercy and Lucio peel is that strong anymore. I see what you're saying of how Lucio's peel has sort of been crept by the addition of things like new heroes with things like Coach Weapon, as brings more peel into the game. I still think it's probably good. I mean, the option of Lucio, what Lucio does in terms of directly challenging tracers that want to go after her Anna, or go after his Anna, go after his Zen, what the boop does. Yeah, I I'd still it's he's still a good peeler. He is. I also think it helps because it points out, again, a reminder that everyone needs, and I'm not saying include this, but a reminder that everyone needs of when supports get in trouble in Overwatch, their first line of defense is the support line. Like, yes, maybe the off tank will come help you out. Maybe you'll get a McCree to help you out, a DPS to help you out. But your first line of defense is yourself and your support partner. And your support partner, again, a Brig might fight back a Winston on an Anna's behalf, and she's perfectly capable to do that with the Anna's help. A Lucio can absolutely fight back a Tracer, but might need his Zen's help type thing. Like that's how that works type thing. A Zen can fight back a Tracer, but needs their Mercy's help because the Mercy is peeling with beam for them, etc. Now, bro, Bap shift is OP. It really is. 7% coal nerf was massive. It's actually painful that Blizzard balanced more. Okay, you're not really there anymore. I definitely want to encourage people to not think that as soon as their teammates picked Zarya Diva, the game is lost, so that's why I added the disclaimers. Fair enough. People don't exactly call it that, but they're talking about the heroes who give lots versus less healing. Yeah, so I just call it big and little. I know, but I also understand what you're trying to avoid here, and it's just not what they call them. Bro, people just don't discuss and talk about how they're boomed. Don't discuss and instead talk about how they're boomed and ranked. I know, you have to beg them to discuss. Hopefully we get a little more here. Our chat community is pretty good about a little bit more discussion, so we should get that here. Yeah. I'll probably be adjusting the main tank descriptions, the peel feature in the main supports, and the paragraph about the ranked picks. Felt those were definitely fair critiques. Good. I'm glad that you felt this was useful, and hopefully we get a better quality thing out as the end, and we all get to have a nice discussion. Okay, so now I'm going to catch up on chat. I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning. We will continue to go here. I am not ignoring you guys. I'm going to catch up here, but we have Mentos Frost saying, "Hey, Temporal, Blux was excited to see the guide. It's like 2-for-1. No. Criticize away, but HLC is in space. Okay, so you're taking space in space. You are taking space in space, but taking space doesn't destroy space, so you can take space in space. Remember when we had defense heroes like Widow and Hanzo and people would rage if you picked them on attack? Yep, I most certainly do. You should pick an attack hero like McCree. I'd agree with that statement. A role doesn't carry, but certain heroes in each role could carry. Yeah, I'd have just liked to see, like, I'd personally be interested in what evidence has been reviewed to decide that there's no significant evidence. But again, I can't ask someone to provide evidence of no evidence. It's just something that would be interesting to me of like, well, what evidence are we looking at? I've not watched an unranked to GM Mercy that didn't have a large period of floundering in the medal ranks from the GM Mercy player. I mean, you can find them that don't have it, but they either pull out their pistol and just use overpowered mechanics of their aim that are way higher than their role, or they take over the comms. Those are the two ways that you force your way through the medal ranks quickly on Mercy as a GM player. Even the Moiras had struggling in the medal ranks, but yes, everyone can lose a few matches. Even the GM players lose a few matches on their few more matches than people might expect on their way through the medal ranks. Scanty, ML7, and Awkward all struggled on Mercy. Not watched a Moira one. She struggles less, Moira. But there's still some matches that you're like, wait, they still lose matches? Yeah, having one GM on your team doesn't necessarily mean you win every single match. Would Widow be burst damage or one-shot potential? I understand about tanks not having one-shot potential. Burst damage, I don't consider that a distinction, Mentos Frost. Burst damage versus one-shot potential. Like, extreme burst is one-shot potential. And you might go like, no, but she can't burst down a tank. Well, that's not the point. The point of burst is like, how much can you do in a small period of time? And Widow can do a lot of damage in a small period of time, and then she's got to charge a little bit before they're doing the next chunk of damage. So it's burst. It's just her burst is high enough to one-shot most things. What's funny is a year and a half ago, I'd have made an Overwatch informational book for school. Nice. This reminds you of it. Okay. The throw DPS category, you either land most of your shots or you're throwing. Who, Hanzo? Widow? I don't agree with refreshing your team's HP resource. Mercy should throw her DPS teammates away once they stop being useful. Orisa isn't great at close range. Her weapon is a bit wonky. She's fine. Orisa at close range will just pump someone full of headshots when she's got her Fortify going. But she's only effective at close range, really, when she has her Fortify going. I think I said main tank's goal is to create space and hold it to better advance your team's ability. Holding it is kind of their job. It gets a little more into off-tank job, team job, etc. There's some holding it, though. Like, Reinhardt wants to stabilize in the opponent's face if he has his way so that he can get back to swing him. So there's some degree of holding it. Her shield is also useless when people simply walk through it. You have to shield dance if you're between two people. You're eating damage from one of them. Right, but if you're in melee range, if you're in brawl range on Orisa, your team should be in brawl range too, and you should have worked up an advantage. She's not amazing in brawl though, like in the brawl phase. I agree because she does need her cooldowns to be effective in the brawl. Reinhardt does not. She's much better though. Like to compare her though, she is much better than Sigma in the brawl phase. Much. Hmm. After Genji did his ult, he is useless to you. Help him charge his next ult. Damage boosted Genji, if he understands how to use it, can charge ults pretty fast. Okay. Understandable. Sometimes I am tempted to write a terrible guide for Overwatch University to go temporal and deraging at it. Okay, maybe. That's really off about Sigma. Sigma has no armor. He has a shield. What do you think is off about Sigma here? Let me take a look here again at Sigma. D.Va and Sigma are also able to directly absorb pressure thanks to their respective abilities, meaning they can consistently prevent an enemy from using an angle. This consistent utility is why D.Va or Sigma is the meta in professional play. D.Va will use her mobility, bulk, and defense to briefly bully someone out of an off angle, but cannot stay for long periods of time if being challenged due to defense matrix's limitation. Sigma was more brittle and challenged positioning, but thanks to his shield and longer range, can maintain his presence on an angle. No, you must have meant up here. No, you meant up here, was it? Reinhardt and Orisa will use their shields and fortify to move team members safely into useful areas of the map, such as high ground and side angles. Similarly, can brawl in close range thanks to these abilities and their weapons. The reason that Sigma doesn't fall into this category is because only 400 health, no armor, and significantly lower shield regeneration rate than Reinhardt. And your response to that is that's really off about Sigma. Sigma has no armor, he has shield. Right, but that doesn't make him good at brawling, really. Like, none of his tools are particularly effective at brawling. He does ultimately have super long range limitations. He's only okay at medium range. But he's not really very good at close range. Like, I would much prefer to be an Orisa at close range than a Sigma. With the exception of Sigma does a slightly better job of challenging like a Sombra, a Tracer type thing, a flanker like that, but that's like a close range. That's not. I don't really consider that a brawl. I consider that contesting a flank if you're just fighting like a Tracer or a Sombra and you're shield dancing the Sigma shield and you're using your pellets and you're not having to use Halt the way that Orisa would have to. Anyway, doesn't matter. D.Va has armor. The whole section is bad. Ryan just needs to charge into the middle of the point. Okay, I see. James Daly says minus 50 points would be pretty harsh when Temporal grades these out of 10. Wouldn't it be? Hey, Temporal in chat. Hey, M. We had RD jersey on the Soldier vs Pharmacy. I see Overwatch as a game revolving around off-angle control. It's pretty big. It's actually not everything. It's like if you look at goats, we during the goats meta said forget map control, we'll go with objective control, but most metas have been about map control. Yes, off angles and map control. It tanks talent to go on 7 non-visors. How far am I from reality? Vibing. Lucio is a very mechanically challenging hero. He is. Who's taking bets on someone in comments saying Anna, Bap, and Moira are main heels, and someone else saying Mercy is main heels, and it all kicking off? It'll happen, almost for sure. Lucio specializes in throwing and annoying Blah specifically. Well, I 100% don't cover Peel. I don't feel like Lucio and Mercy provide it directly enough anymore for it to be meaningful in the definition. Yeah, I already covered that comment, I think. Sorry, I was rereading. I still think they do, but that's fine. What I mean is, I used to coach avoid pathing main as every hero except for pushing objective, but I found that not always possible, especially in ranked. I mean, someone can push main. It's totally fine to have your Orisa, your Reinhardt push main, or if your team is pushing a flank, your McCree, your Hanzo, whatever, might take main as an off angle. Main can be an off angle. And you want to have more and bigger angles. So, like, if taking main lets you have a third angle, main looks pretty good. Most of Overwatch maps are divided into 3 lanes. So like 3 tends to be what you work with in terms of maximizing angles. You can do more than 3, you do start to create some vulnerabilities and you start seeing diminishing returns. But 3 tends to be the number. They don't provide it because people play terrible on ladder, but Lucio has all the tools of being an awesome peeler. Yeah, I'm in that camp. I'm in the Mercy peeling is actually pretty good. Like that's why she helps people win duels so effectively. They stop being duels, but that's why she does it. And Lucio, in a similar boat, has plenty. Like, he can get 2 people quickly to peel, he can help move people away, he can provide slight amounts of healing when necessary, he has the boop, he can duel in people's place and get the healing himself from the flex support that he's healing for. Like, he does have good peel tools. And then Block changes his mind. No, I agree, Lucio sucks, remove him from the game. M asks, how do you win rank games when your team is all grouped up as Rhine or as support? There's a hole in my knowledge here. How do you win games when your team is all grouped up as a Rhine or support? There's a hole in my knowledge here. Um, well, you can. You can change if you're a support, for example, to something that more closely enables a GOATS type thing and try to play hard over objective control. Like, there are ways to win the map that is around objective control, not map control. You can go, hey, we're playing on Route 66, the cart's right here, the train is open over here, whatever. This is the beginning of the map. We go up here, there's a cave, things like that, and you can go, okay, we're going to all play super close range brawly heroes. You as a support are going to pick Moira, Lucio, whatever. You're going to have your team rotate to cart, push cart a little forward, then you're going to have your team rotate in here, recover resources, come back, push cart a little more, then leave, go back in here, go do it like that. Like, that's one thing you could do, but your team probably isn't going to be that organized. So the real thing that you do is you just go, hey, I'm just going to play for the bulk. Like, if you can't get your team to take angles, you're just going to have to play for the bulk and hope that the other team will be similarly stubborn and actually be willing to fight you rather than exhaust you first. So play to enable that. Or, I mean, no, that's probably the right answer. Play to enable it. Play to enable the extreme brawl and hope the other team will wrongly commit to you. And that if they don't commit to fighting you early, your team will adjust. If Lucio added a third song, what genre would it be and what would it do? Reduce incoming damage, like provide something that's sort of like armor, but not like actually increase by giving people armor on top, but just damage reduction. I don't know. Play BAP as a support. If they're all grouped up, your heals would be awesome. Give Sigma boosters. No, thank you. No, thank you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Lucio's picked for the meme. I think it's hair splitting. You don't pick Lucio for the poke. He enables poke worse than example Mercy. Your only problem is how it's written, as can't really contribute because he can, just not great. Yeah, you're right. It is the written as can't really contribute, and it is that it's focused on like range when it's like it's really range specifically for divers. Lucio is certainly more flexible than Brig, but Brig is very good in her situations. Packing Asher Echo can help them win the angle. Lucio doesn't do jack. Excuse me? I don't know about that for Lucio or not doing Jack. Like, let's talk about Control Center using your Lucio, for example, to move around your Sim and your Junkrat to better set them up, to more quickly set your team up, to more quickly transition your Zarya up, your Ashe up, so that they can take their parting shots at the opposing team and then still reposition into a good thing. Like, Lucios will get their own poke off and they'll also move their team around appropriately and they'll choose who they're moving around so that their Zarya, their Ashe, their whoever can greed more poke getting done. Like, don't undersell that. Do not undersell what Lucio can do in terms of allowing his team to have a better or longer poke phase, because someone gets to be a little greedier shooting at spawn, staying for the stagger, shooting at the team as it's doing, and then still pull them out and still let them go take their angle. Like, I'm not going to claim that Mercy isn't better at it. Like, Mercy is better at it because 30% damage increase for a pure hero is absolutely huge. But Lucio does help your team with their poke if he knows what he's doing, and he doesn't have to worry about your flex support in a one fight situation like that. But Zen is better since they have no tracer in this case. I think that's too situational. We're comparing Lucio and Brig. Lucio's job isn't to heal or speed your DPS that are flying around or too far away off angles. You should have another support that can pocket heal them that's not Lucio. Well, heal them, sure. Pocket them, not necessarily. I mean, in a Lucio Zen situation, maybe someone is pocketing a DPS with a Harmony Orb. In a Lucio Brig situation, you could see that, but there's been like one team that can run Lucio Brig well in the history of Overwatch. Suggesting Lucio or Brig for what they're not there is for. Suggesting Lucio or Brig for what they're not there for is silly. Yeah, neither of them are really there for that. Lucio is useless in that case. Lucio is useless in what case? I think we've covered that Lucio is not useless in poke. Like, we've covered that. Agreed. I agree with Nixtia here, who is saying that I'm splitting hairs and my problem is how it's written. But I'm also not going to. Well, my problem is a little more than how it's written, but that mostly falls into that category. But Lucio again is still not useless in poke, and I just gave a pretty valid example of that beyond just his poke damage, what he can do to enable other poke. Okay. Nah, bro, Bap Shift is OP. It is OP. It is for Bap. Bap Shift is OP for Bap. For his team, it's kind of meh. Such weird language used in this description. I don't know which one that's about, bystander. Sorry. I feel like balancing Bap and Anna is very difficult. You can easily overtune Anna, and Bap can be nerfed back to before his Widow change and forever bench. No, probably not. Even if you gave Bap his much smaller window back, I think he'd be fine. Um, Sometimes it takes over buffing heroes to get people to play them or to get enough playtime on them to get, and this is something that developers intentionally do sometimes. They overbuff a hero on release, or they release a hero thinking it's overtuned, no one plays it, so they buff it further to get people to play it, and then people are like, oh my goodness, this is crazy good. If it's too wildly powerful, people recognize that right away, but like, it's not rare for a hero's already strong, but it's new, so people haven't played it because people don't have the thousands of hours into it. So they're, for example, Echo wasn't immediately extremely played as an example, or Brig was pretty quickly immediately played, and people who tell you she wasn't played are wrong. She was just played, and people quickly realized how effective she was, so she enforced a meta from the bench that didn't include her, but it didn't have to include her because she, by existing, was keeping other things out of the meta. Which caused her counters poke damage to be the meta. But like, it's not at all rare for something to be released and it to actually be quite powerful. Orisa would be another example of this. With original Halt was much more powerful than people realized, but it takes people really playing it before you get there, before people realize it. If you shrunk Bap's window again, really wouldn't hurt him that much. It's actually painful that Blizzard bounced Moira off of hero bans. That was incredibly foolish. Like, that was wildly foolish. Mercy doesn't have high heels, but she does have high heels. She does have high heels of that sort, yes. The joke here being footwear. And looks good wearing them. Moira's just sad from a design point, little bit, little bit. But Moira came out at a time in the game when they were trying to solve dive. They didn't like that dive had been meta so long, or they didn't like that the Blizzard forums didn't like that dive had been meta so long. Supports didn't like getting beat up by flankers, and rather than accept that, wait, we do have to get to a position where we can outduel them, and the key to outdueling them is better positioning and getting any sort of pressure put on them before they get in, they wanted to just win. So they were like, okay, well, let's give you a support that'll let you sort of just win and not have to worry about them. But that wasn't enough. So then after Moira, we got Brig. But in order to give them a support that could just fight flankers, they had to take power from other parts of her kit, which meant no Discord Orb, no anti-nade, etc. And so we talked about her, and Moira's role is sort of as her power actually isn't that high until her ult, and her ult isn't that high, isn't that powerful either, but her survivability is good, and she can get ults relatively frequently, or used to be able to get ults relatively frequently. Can still get them fairly frequently. Not gonna lie, I've never heard big heels, little heels. When I read that, yeah, major midget. That was Black Drake in here. Wishing a different term into existence because we don't want the term that creates more confusion of main heals, off heals. But I have gold healing as mercy. There you go, James. There you go. Size doesn't matter. Screw healer, little healer. Screw big healer, little healer terms. Just take less damage. Hanzo one shot, so there's no need to heal versus Hanzo. But he doesn't always one shot because he doesn't always hit the headshot. Major Midget says, "Our Overwatch Unity now D tier. Is that up? Is that up? Was it E tier before? I saw your tier list. I just don't remember where it was before. Is that the same as it was before, or is that up one?" Major Midget says, "I haven't looked at Overwatch Uni and don't want to look at the hot post." I haven't looked at Overwatch Uni and I don't want to look at the hot post. I mean, hopefully this is going to be one of them. Actually, did I upvote this yet? Oh, there we go. A very fruitful discussion. Thank you, Temporal and Kessel. Yeah, thank you, Kessel, for writing this one, posting this, and contributing to the discussion here. Val says this is like a Dojo challenge, but for Overwatch. No need to think about hiring a secret coach for a while. And Ryan Zarya is. And Ryan Zarya is lower. And Ryan Zarya is lower rank's favorite. And the worst thing is when I ask them about it. Is there a follow up to that? No, I don't see a follow up to that. Oh, sorry guys, you've got thrown quite a lot in chat. I'm catching up. Temporal isn't subbed to the main Overwatch sub. He must not like seeing 4K diva pumps in quick play. That's true. That's true. Val says, "I almost hired Major Midget before I was told about doing too many things at once." I mean, I don't mind if you go elsewhere to get some coaching, Val. Like, I'm more than happy to continue to coaching you. But if you want to be like, hey, what does the market have? I'm not going to stop anyone from going out seeing what the market has. Yeah, I mean, I'm the best. I'm the best that the market has, and I have a very reasonable price point for my Overwatch coaching compared to people who coach with similar resumes to me. Um, but I'm not, I'm never going to be mad at people for shopping around. Major Midget says, bruh. Major Midget wanted the business. My customer first, Major Midget. Sorry. Uh, What a bullet you dodged there. Okay. I found the transition from main support to off tank and back quite easy because of how similar the main role is. Yeah, they both have some peeling thoughts there. But they also both do some different things. Support strong together, Lucio beep on a 4-second cooldown, clearly bad for peeling. It's amazing. 4-second cooldown on boop is amazing. Val says, at Major Midget, blame blah. I wanted to hire you to help me finish temporal homework and come up with a training plan, but he talked me out of it. I even loaded in some PayPal money ready to. Okay. Ouch. Val says his guides are okay. He did better than many YouTubers. And then in caps for Major Midget, okay, only okay. Nah, JK. No, Major Midget's put some good hero guides out there. He had to revise some of them, but he's put some good hero guides out there. And for those of you that haven't already seen it, he has now put up his complete all hero guide, which is like 8 hours, 14 hours, something wild. But if you just want to like maybe let that play when you sleep or something, maybe you'll know more about the heroes. And then we had Major Midget here on this channel for an interview a couple months ago. You guys can look through, just, search Major Midget on my channel and you'll find him, and that could be interesting as well. He's got some console background that most of the Overwatch content creation scene doesn't have. Kessel says, imagine being a content creator. Sheesh. Imagine. Major Midget, I'll change the review to amazing after you update the Mercy Guide to 2021. And then Major Midget says, bro, what am I supposed to update? I swear I added like 1 or 2 things recently as well. I should actually make a Dogwater Overwatch University guide and see how well it does. Well, if you say the right things that the people want to hear, then it'll do amazingly well. The problem is we don't always want to write what people want to hear, because what people want to hear isn't really new information. What people want to hear is DPS are bad. What people want to hear is things that have already been parroted 1,000 times before. What people want to hear is, well, anyway, it doesn't matter. People want to hear different things, but yeah, there can be some rough things in Overwatch University that get a lot of upvotes. This does not have a lot of upvotes for something that's 15 hours old, and that makes me a little sad because it's better quality than what we generally see here, but such is life. You, Temporal, misspoke and said Sigma had armor. The guy didn't. Ah, got it. My bad. My bad. Thank you, Blah. Yes, the guy did not say that Sigma had armor. That is my apologies if I said that. I hope I'm not off about Sigma. He's practically my one-trick hero. Is there going to be a comment here from Major Midget about Llama and Sigma? Because I feel like with Major Midget in the channel and Kessel talking about Sigma being their one trick, that's what comes next. But we'll see. At Major Midget, you have the educative YouTuber tag, therefore it'd pop off and you'd be treated as a prophet. Could be. Hey Sheldon, good day to you too. Major Midget, talk about flight speed, hitbox manipulation, gathering info without putting self at risk, or using map geometry to give Mercy the most option. At Kessel, not gonna lie, I thought about that, and then Major Midget's flight speed. Yeah, Mercy can get into it. I mean, because Mercy's kit is limited in some ways, Mercy players have gone really, really deep in figuring out getting exactly the most tiny little bit of stuff out of it. The thing is, you don't actually need most of those things until you're trying to make, small SR differences. At the higher SRs, it's much more the big picture stuff. For most players, it's going to be, hey, recognizing the Valk timing, recognizing which DPS to enable, recognizing how to enable them, tracking cooldowns, tracking ults, having awareness of the map. It's most of that. But the Mercy community has gone really deep into its techs. It's true. And it's not like he has a shield. His health is 300 health, 100 shield. It's not like he has a shield. His health is 300 health, 100 shield, if I remember correctly. Yeah, right. But his shield health is still relevant. And part of what makes his shield health relevant, and what makes that 1/4 of his health being shield relevant, is he gets to juggle between, with how he works, he can pretty easily juggle between barrier on, barrier off, take a little health damage, put barrier back up, pull the barrier down, you've regenerated some of this health, put your shift up, you take a little health damage after that, recover it, and if you take a little real health damage, it doesn't matter, but it makes him very sustainable. Like, this does help his sustain quite a bit more than you might expect on most heroes having 1/4 of their health. Because he has these 2 other tools, and because of how he juggles with these 2 other tools and how he juggles with his cover use because of his rate of fire, and there's a significant delay after he throws out 2 orbs. Because of how all those things work in his kit, he actually gets quite a bit of mileage out of this 100 health, 100 shield health here, to the point where like adjusting 25 more or less shield health here would actually be pretty significant buffer nerf for him. And when I say 25 more or less, I mean, trading it for health. I don't mean just decreasing or increasing his total health pool. I mean moving it from health to shields or shields to health would be a pretty meaningful buffer nerf for him. More so than people might expect. Flight speed, that'd be like making Zen guide and emphasizing the orb speed. Sort of, but the Mercy community again has gone really deep on their techs. Add Major Midget. Yes, if you position and retarget GA in a certain way, you can make Mercy fly faster. People talk about Mercy like it's piloting a military fighter jet. Major Midget agrees. NYS's Mercy review, he gets punished by Temporal for flying too slow. Yeah, but that's a positioning too close to your target type thing so that you have a very slow Guardian Angel as opposed to positioning further back so you get a faster Guardian Angel. That's pretty like, yes, I suppose that's officially tech, but that's not like going super super deep into the tech world. But yes. I mean, Temporal is known for micro details about heroes. True. I predominantly watch Spylo VODs, which focus on the broader fundamentals behind why you play the hero, which is just so funny because, like, yes, I guess at this point I am known for micro details about heroes, but like strategic coach, macro coach, that's the thing. This is just where I ended up, but that's fine. Another way of looking at that was, okay, I spent lots of time in the professional world doing the macro stuff and that was fun and we did that, etc. And then I went, hey, let's go spend more time on micro, and hey, it's different, it was fun. But yes, Major Midget, based on your tier list, you clearly do have a preference in general for the macro stuff, and you can tell that, which is fine. Everyone's allowed their preferences. Spylostones go burr. Example with Brig, she is literally just good repair packs and handling threatening short sightline angles. Deathball comp wants to walk on an immobile enemy hero like Anna, Sigma, Mei, etc. Even better if they don't have cooldowns. Yeah, that alone will get you 4K. Unironically, not quite that alone. You do need to. So example with Brig, she is literally just good repair packs and holding threatening short sightlines angles. That alone will get you 4K unironically. It won't. You do need some of the other skills. You do need to be thinking about, are you tracking enemy cooldowns? Are you tracking ults? Are you recognizing, some of this other stuff that you're just not thinking about that like everyone needs to do? But if you do all of the stuff that everyone needs to do, yeah, those are all transferable skills and those are things that you have to work on. Sure, sure. That's a good question. His third song should be rap music. That wouldn't be surprising. At Major Midget, Mercy one trick logic is simple. Close your eyes and click on Mercy as fast as you can at the start of the match, then refuse to ever switch, then try to win. Do the same next game. But I am not hard to coach, only silver. That's hard to coach. Because you have to prioritize what's most important. Sure. You consider bronze and silver hard to coach, but that's just me. Yeah, I could see why. You're sort of focused on. Are you even focused on different things? I could see why. Eh. Depends whether you're talking team or individual. Stuff's a little different. Lucio's third song is trap remix music that gives his teammates a buff where everyone can wall ride for full seconds and roll out together as a squads. I don't think that one will happen. At Temporal, I'm picking Brig Repair Pack over Lucio Aura in a DPS duel any day of the week. Well, hold on. One single Brig Repair Pack versus I get the Lucio Aura for the entirety of the duel? I'll take that. I'll happily take that. If I only have to outlast one Brig Repair Pack, yeah, that's fine with me. And especially, what are you playing? Like, are you playing Reaper and I get Lucio Aura? Cool, sweet. I get speed to help me stay away from you. Or, I'm playing Reaper and you're playing, yeah, like, or I'm playing Reaper and I want the Lucio speed. Or I'm playing Sim and I want the Lucio speed. I know those aren't the heroes you're talking about. You're expecting me to be playing someone like Ashe or maybe someone like Tracer when the Repair Pack and the Aura are involved. But, like Like, yes, the repair pack is absolutely huge for the duel, but if I make the duel last long enough, I'm going to win that. That's just me objecting to your framing, though, and pointing out, like, well, if I have to overcome that thing, that's true. But, like, that's not what it's actually about. It's about a totality of the kit. Like, Lucio, if Lucio is in range to give you aura, Lucio is also in range to help you with his weapon. Lucio can get in range to give you his aura faster or to help you with his weapon. And Lucio is going to have a boop every 4 seconds to help you if you're actually in trouble there. Now, you might be saying, okay, but Brig can throw the repair pack without being there, and that's true, but Lucio can transition over to help if he wants. Lucio can offer those other things. Like, yes, repair pack is a big a big deal. I don't disagree with that even remotely. Repair pack, that's what Brig does. Like, she goes, hey, I'm going to disable opposing divers. I'm going to enable my aggressive DPS, preferably divers if I have them available. But that's like what she's supposed. That's like what she does, whereas Lucio is different. And again, okay, maybe you want the repair pack, but what if you're an Ashe that's shooting at the opposing enemy after we wiped them? It's 6-3 and we're trying to clean up, or it's 6-3, we want to fight and now they want to push into their next fight. I don't know, the repair pack on Lucio on Ashe is pretty good for her trying to continue to put pressure on the enemy team that is advancing back from their spawn or advancing up from one choke to the next. But her having the Lucio to let her greed shooting for longer, that's a different scenario where it's like, no, you might want that Lucio actually, because her knowing that she's going to have that Lucio to rotate means she can put additional pressure on the enemy team, get more ult charge, force more cooldowns, get more shield health out of them, soften up their health pools more before they're to the place that they can actually push from, and she's still going to be able to retreat to a strong angle because she had that Lucio. Like, again, they're different scenarios. I thought maybe a Rickroll and he does damage to enemies in the Rickroll. Okay, damage to their selfless dream. Okay. Val says that Major Midget. Okay, let's do one for fun. Second option, since I'm in a strange spot right now. How much for one 60-minute review, or whichever time frame you go by. Major Midget doesn't do freelancer type reviews. Just coach a team, like that's it. Don't coach anyone else regardless of the moolah involved. Okay. Okay. Val's a team of one. Do you not like her? Major Mulas. Aren't you fellow Brits or something, turning your back on one of your own? Okay, okay. Major Midget only coaches teams now. No more solo reviews. What? Unpaid Spylo mod? Pepe Laugh? Okay, okay. Echo was played right away because she deleted just about everything and all her counters were banned. No, she wasn't played right away when she was released. Val, no, Major Midget says that. Val, I only really did solo reviews during the coaching marathon I did a while back. Okay. Bro, 2017 dive meta is so much pain for supports. I I quite enjoyed playing Zen and Anna during that dive meta, so I don't know what you're talking about. Val says, QQ, I need another secret coach to practice things I don't want Temporal to see. You know I don't mind when I see you going and doing wild, silly things. Like, you get worried that I'm gonna get more upset than I ever get. Sheldon says, I like Moira. Feels like I have a lot of influence in the game. Well, you have a lot of influence because you survive a long time. And if you survive a long time and you don't spend any time in spawn, or you spend less time in spawn than you do on other heroes, that's going to increase your total contribution. But it would be even better if you could survive on Zen, for example, because then you'd have very high Discord orb uptime. But surviving on Zen is harder, so you're likely to spend more time on the spawn room, which is going to decrease your contribution to the match. But I'm not saying don't play Moira. Moira is perfectly fine. I can't ask him to teach me how to blaster better if I am banned from overusing it. Yeah, that was a while ago. At Temporal, Overwatch Uni was E tier. Got it. So it is a promotion for them. Give the Reddit post your free award. I could. Temporal cares about you, but Midget doesn't, and you're leaving Temporal for someone a lot worse. I mean, if you went to ML7, you could say you're getting a different perspective. I think the weight on that would be huge, though. Major Midget is tall and attractive, though. Okay, Kessel shilling for Major Midget here. I'm not sure that'd be cheating. Sometimes when you have had steak, excuse me. Sometimes when you have had steak, temporal coaching the previous night, you have a craving for a dirty burger, a random coach from Fiverr. Okay. Kissel glides into a face reveal. Uh, Kessel says, thanks, Major Midget, for giving me that spare sports car a couple days ago. Really generous, especially after you're recovering from saving a family from the fire. Yeah, okay, so that's the game we're playing? Okay, that's the game we're playing, the fake rich game. Okay, okay. At Temporal, that was referring to extra coaching. It is dishonorable to switch Kung Fu Master unless he failed. I hear you. I hear you. You should face reveal a picture of your PS5 or Xbox. Uh, Other than new players, which players do you believe this post most benefits? Most benefits? People that at some point may want to find their way into. I mean, anyone who doesn't know these terms. And while I think new players don't know these terms, I think there's lots of players who don't know these terms. I don't know that they're going to be spending a ton of time on Overwatch University, but they might occasionally visit Overwatch University and they might see this one. There have been posts sort of like this before, but they probably won't see those because these posts don't get a bajillion upvotes. So anyone who isn't familiar with this terminology, it may help because anyone may end up wanting to play on a team in the future, and it helps them understand what they're actually expected to be able to play for if they join an organized team in the future. And I think everyone, or I think most people, should keep their options open for joining an organized team. Not because everyone should try to go pro or anything like that, they shouldn't, but because it's the most fun way to play Overwatch. Like, organized play is the most fun way to play Overwatch. Even if you just join some plat, diamond, whatever team and are just like, hey, I'm going to do this, treat it like a beer league or something, that's fun. Temporal doesn't tell people what they want to hear. That's true. He told me my gameplay was trash and I didn't deserve a VOD review until I got better. I did not tell you that. PSA from a Mercy main, stop spamming X silly DPS. Yeah. Yes, the llama. Llama, no, not him. That's Major Midget. Okay. Major Midget says he unironically brings the average IQ of the Overwatch uni member down by 5. Okay. Can't watch llama content anymore. Okay. Temporal, you need to watch llama reviewing a Master's Tracer. It's so bad. I was surprised to see that I don't know if I saw the thumbnail or if I saw the post in Reddit, but I was surprised to see that he was tackling a Master's Tracer. I didn't watch it. He waffles for 14 minutes. I can't. Temporal said he won't review people reviewing because he doesn't want a content war. That's not a door I've permanently closed. I mean, I'm reviewing someone else's guide right now, so I've already sort of opened that door. Like, I didn't expect Black Draken would rage and get terribly upset or anything like that, but I did review someone's guide without an invitation to do so. So I am already stepping into that territory, and if there's backlash, there's backlash. The only thing he can help is brand new bronze players, and he doesn't even give the correct basics all the time. But if it's a bad review, I would also vote that Temporal overturn that policy and review that review. What if the person asked to be reviewed? Well, if the person asked to be reviewed, I'm willing to, but I'm not just going to review anyone that gets asked to be reviewed either. Because, again, if I'm going to review someone, there's either it's interesting to me, there's compensation involved, or I think it's going to make good content be interesting, etc. Not the person who's asking to be reviewed thinks it's going to make good content. I think it's going to make good, interesting content, or high visibility, etc. Like, okay, it's got, it's all the rage right now. Everyone's looking at it. It has a bajillion upvotes, or it's all over Twitter, etc. Llama has no experience in the higher ranks, does he? How can he review at that level? I don't actually know what Llama's play rank is. I mean, isn't Krusty Plat maybe Diamond. But Krusty has experience in the higher ranks because Krusty has coached the higher ranks. That said, I look at that and I don't know. I don't know where you're going with that, blah. Blah, that's fair. Temporal lighting the box of fireworks in the Llama Midget Flame War, then walking away with an innocent face. Caught me doing that, did you, James Daly? Bro. To be fair, blah, I'm like High Diamond Peak and write about high rank stuff, coach low master ish performance team, and have reviewed some players higher ranked than myself. Llama actually chill though, but it requires a lot of study. His fan base isn't. Yeah, true. Actually, he takes criticism, but I don't know if he tries to improve on it. He takes it professionally, though. At Kessel, I'm not saying he can't coach Master GM because he's not Master GM. I just don't think he has the experience there, either playing or coaching. Temporal won't disclose his rank, but some of us know what it is. Interesting. But he does everything because he's dedicated his life to the game and understands it at all levels. I don't know if I dedicated my life to the game. But I did spend a lot of time, effort, etc., getting at it. Um, Fair, done with Llama. Temporal reviews Llama Tracer. Diamond to Masters probably is a fair place to assume where Temporal reached. Semitic, I'm Wood League. I'm below the bottom 500. We've been over this. On whose job is it? The straw that broke the camel's back. His whose job is it is the straw that broke the camel's back. Yeah, and isn't he doing like the, who's supposed to handle Bastion, who's supposed to handle Doomfist, Sim Turrets, that sort of thing? I've seen those posts. Didn't watch them. It's just wrong and bad and situational that's not covered. Haven't watched that. Was it bad? That's an obvious question. Okay. Fine. You just die on Zen, Anna. It's not fun. I think we're back to 2017 dive here. But if you're just dying on Zen or Anna to 2017 dive, 2016 dive, what's happening there is you're not putting pressure on the opponents. You're letting flankers take flanks and space for free. Like if a Tracer shows up on you with full resources, if a Genji shows up on you with full resources, you've already lost the duel because, or back in that era, because your job was to put pressure on them before they got to you. Your job was to force deflect. Your job was to put one damage shot into them. The Genji wasn't going to come after you if he, before he could get his way to you, was missing 60 health, etc. The Tracer wasn't going to come after you if you forced blinks before they were able to close on you, that sort of thing. And also, there was a certain acceptance of, okay, they got a coordinated dive off you. Well, your job is to survive as long as possible because your team is also getting a coordinated dive off on their backline. And it's a base race type situation where your bases are your backlines. And it's fine for you to just go, well, if I can survive 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds longer than their Zen or Anna, that drastically increases my team's chance of winning. Because once your team deals with the Zen, the Anna, whatever, they're going to come back and deal with things. Okay. Back to that. We must have been playing totally different games because right after Echo was released, the game I had was decided by who had the better Echo, and it was awful experience. Okay. Okay. Um, I wasn't coaching right when Echo was released. That was my understanding of the timeline, but Echo was released during my hiatus, so that's entirely possible. Blah. Maybe I'm misremembering my understanding of what happened there. Zen Poke Dive Hybrid Thingamajig and Anna in Double Bubble is more fun because at least you have a brig that peels for you. I mean, you had a Lucio that would peel for you back in 2016, 2017 dive meta. And again, Lucio peel is really not that bad. But yes, brig peel is better. Jim says, I'm in a gold Overwatch team and it's fun. Sure. Organized play is the best way for Overwatch. Agreed. The game was supposed to be released with Team Q only, and it would have been a more fun game. It really would have. I know it was unacceptable, but it would have been a more fun game. What Patreon tier gives you temporal will review one thing I ask him to review per month perk? There's an idea. What do you believe is an appropriate SRR rank where you can coach other players without leading them onto the wrong path? I don't think it's tied to SRR rank. I've been playing Zenyatta with my duo and it's been going well. Have to switch to Brig occasionally. Sure, Zenyatta is a greedy backline, but if your opponents aren't punishing it, it's quite powerful. It's just it's very greedy because those are two very high power backline supports effectively that don't do an amazing job of, peeling. Like, oh, whoops, they're both a bit weak on that as well as peeling for each other. So if you're playing that and say Tracer plus Hammond come after you, they should be able to get one of you gone. You have MMR SR and coaching SR. You need your coaching SR to be high enough to cover that rank to coach. That's one way to look at it, sure. I'll be heading out. Appreciate the discussion in the Postman. Take care and keep up the good stuff with your content. Yeah, I think we're wrapping up here, but good to see you, Kessel. Thank you for the post. It made an interesting thing to review here, and it was good to hear your thoughts. James says you can definitely coach the same rank if it's a VOD because of the advantage hindsight it gives you, as long as you are not condescending. I mean, I don't know. You can be condescending and still coach something correctly. I don't know that I'd make that call out. You might not want people to be condescending, or you might be saying that coaching isn't received as well when you're condescending. That could be a fair argument. But again, I think what you're going to find is higher ranked players like things to be harsh. They like things to be called out. They don't want time wasted on the dressing up, etc. That's not quite the same thing as being condescending, though. And let me know if you ever take a look at the one I linked at the bottom of this post. Will do. Will do. Zen is good in a lot of low rank games because low ranks are generally more scared to play dive tanks or flankers. True. I'm ready for a review. Let's go. Yes, temporal can be condescending. Are you his 1 p.m. review, Game Buster? Why do you know that I have a 1 p.m. review? Huh. Oh, no. I don't have a 1 p.m. review. That's what's throwing me off here. Okay, got it. I have a 2 p.m. review, and that threw me off. Yeah, I could do that now. I could head into a review. Sure. Okay. I think we'll go ahead and call it there then. Was the chat interesting? Let me just do a quick refresh on chat to see if there's anything interesting here. We'll go through this fast. I think we've more than covered this topic. Good guide. Would have titled it guide. This is it. We knew that it would be here. The main support versus flex support discussion, main heals versus off heals discussion. We've covered that already. Oh my goodness. This discussion happens way too many times. Nor can the team really play around him. The rest I can agree on. Strong and disagree here. Pile driver is the strongest setup in the game. It's a good one. That isn't an ult. It's a good one. You play around your ball by following up on his engage and by using him as a distraction, as Sebrew described. That can be extremely strong in its own right. It is extremely strong. Literally physically around him is what I mean. Yeah, there wasn't a. I think this was also discussed back in the guide. Ball doesn't play with his team. He plays timing wise with his team. Yeah, you can go in with a Wrecking Ball the same way you go in with Winston. It's a timing thing. Main support always on support. No, that's made more sense before. Roll lock. Sure, similar to Flex Tank. And yes, you would see the Flex support playing Sombra, for example. Okay, that looks like it. We're going to go ahead and call this one here. If you guys are enjoying the content, please do like and subscribe. It looks like you guys have been quite good about the like, so I do very much appreciate that. If you are looking to get coaching yourself, you can join my Discord in the description below, see what rates look like, see what sort of promos, special events we have going on, and you can also go ahead and see if you join the Discord when we cover topics like this, when we review people's guides, when we do reviews of different heroes of different ranks, when we cover things in the news, like we covered the new Pokemon game announcements last night, things like that. And you can see, wait, do I want to be here? Do I want to be here live, part of the discussion, so I can chat? And you'll get those pings if you join the Discord and choose to be a watcher. I'm not just going to ping you all the time if you choose not to be a watcher. We're careful with our everyone pings. Okay. And that's going to do it. No, you are now, it seems. Okay. Sounds good. That's going to do it. Thanks, guys. Temporal out.